Hi, everybody, and welcome to Pop Therapy, a podcast where we explore the intersection between psychology and pop culture. There's so much to unpack, so let's get started. Well. If it isn't the season finale of season 1 of Pop Therapy, I did not see this coming. I can't believe I did the thing that I wanted to do. I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. I can't believe I thought of this idea to do a podcast in a market that is already so saturated. I mean, it was so easy for me to say, there's like a gajillion podcasts out there. There are too many podcasts out there. No one needs to hear another guy on a podcast like mouthing off and all of that. And I did it anyway. I wanted to do it. I felt compelled to do it. I organized it. I did the research I needed to do. I battled. I procrastinated. I went back and forth in terms of what I was going to name this podcast, the structure, the format, all of that. And here we are. I freaking did it. I wasn't sure if that was going to happen. So forgive me. Forgive me for sounding shocked. It's like, well, yeah, Omar, you did this. So I'm just kind of in awe that I set out to do this thing without much of a structure, right? Like I'm used to doing things when someone else puts the structure up, like school. That was easier for me to understand and to follow through on because there were deadlines and there were papers and there were grades and expectations and semesters and it was all just sort of outlined for me. And I just needed to follow the playbook. And there was no playbook. I sort of had to create the playbook piecemeal, learning from other individuals who did podcasts or other folks in the world of like putting themselves out there. I had to borrow from everyone else to create this. And I really wasn't sure what was going to happen. And I wrote down a few thoughts that I wanted to share. First and foremost, I think moving forward, the format is going to be that every season is bookended with a solo episode of just me reflecting and just talking about expectations, my hopes. I think the reason why that speaks to me is that I do that in therapy with my clients. During early sessions, there is often a discussion about what the plan is going to be, what the expectations are, what the hopes are, what are we going to work on. And at some point towards the end, maybe it's one of the last sessions we have, it's definitely the very last session for sure. There's a reflection session. There's a session where we talk about what happened. We process the process, right? It's a meta process. So we talk about the experience of therapy and what we learned and how we grew and what to keep in mind. So I think that's why the idea of doing some version of that on this show is compelling to me. So I'm fairly certain that every season it'll start off with me kind of laying down the groundwork for y'all, talking a little bit about what I hope to accomplish with the season, what I hope to do. And then the last episode of the season will be me reflecting on that. Will be me reflecting on the expectations. It'll be me reflecting on this process. I hope you find it helpful. I think it is helpful to hear, especially a therapist, reflect on their process, to reflect on their journey, whatever it is, no matter how lengthy or short that journey is. So I think this will be the 11th episode. And reflecting back, the first thing I want to say is I am so incredibly grateful for the guests that were on. I just can't thank them enough. I cannot thank the guests enough for taking the time, for happily agreeing to be on the podcast. I never felt like I was bothering someone or annoying someone. There just aren't any words to express how grateful I am for those people that showed up for me. I mean, they were all friends, some of them very, very close friends, some of them old friends, some of them newer friends, but I felt supported by them. And it was really scary, even though they were friends, even though these were people that I knew to varying degrees, it was really nerve-wracking to ask them to be on the show. I don't know. I just felt like I was being annoying or something like that. I felt like I was being annoying or a burden. And that's certainly thematic with me in my life. That's one of those things that I talk about in my own therapy a lot. It's one of the things I am actively working on is not treating myself like a burden and asking for help and asking for what I need with the understanding that the other person, the person on the other end of that ask may not be able to fulfill that need and to be okay with that. And to be open to hearing no, right? Not only open, I was always open to hearing no, but to let the no just be no and not reflective of anything much bigger beyond that. You know, it would have been okay if any of my friends that came on the show said, I can't, I'm too busy, or I'm uncomfortable, or, or I just don't feel like it, right? Like that's just like not something I'm interested in doing. And, without taking that to mean that I was asking something inappropriate or that I was putting them in this like terrible position. So it was really good practice, and it will remain practice for me because I do hope to continue having guests on the show. And, as I expand beyond my close circle of friends, it's going to get harder. And it has been harder to ask people that I'm more so like acquainted with. So I'm recording season 2 as we speak. A couple of episodes I've already recorded. I have a couple of episodes that I'm scheduled to record. And some of them are, friends again, and some of them are folks that are a little bit more peripheral, again, folks that I'm well acquainted with. And so, the practice of asking for what I want continues. The practice of me asking people to be on my show, to take time out of their schedules. It'd be one thing if the show was like the number one podcast in the world, then I guess I would feel more comfortable, right? Because I would be like, well, this is just as helpful for them. At this point in the show, it's definitely the guests are doing me a favor. Like it is very much that, as much as I would like to think that I'm, promoting their work, and it is, whether it's to one person or not, it is promoting their work or getting their name out there or giving them a platform. For sure it is, but there's an imbalance. Like they're the ones that are doing me a solid, and I just want them to know, the folks that I've already recorded with and the folks that I'm going to record with. I just want you all to know that I'm very much aware of that, and I really appreciate it. It's been really good, helpful practice for me. One of the things that I'm still trying to figure out is how evergreen I want these episodes to be. When you talk about pop culture, it is, I think, part of what makes that topic both really, really compelling and interesting, but also really risky, is that pop culture is kind of an umbrella for everything or most things. I mean, pop culture, what does that include? I mean, it includes everything that we're talking about or everything that we're doing right now. So it can be a TV show and a movie that's number one at the box office, but it can also be food. It can be what's going on in your neighborhood. It can be, the world of dating and love and relationships and social media and reality TV. And pop culture can be so many things. And again, on one end, that's great because you have a massive pool to pull from. However, you're running the risk of going too broad. And I don't necessarily, I'm still understanding whether or not that's like good or bad. I don't know. Maybe it's not so bad to go too broad. Maybe it's okay to go broad some days, a little macro, right? And more granular other days, a little more micro. And, how relevant do I want to be, or like how up to date is it? Maybe that's relevant, up to date do I want to be? I'm going to be honest with y'all. Like, I am not the source for breaking news. I don't particularly like hot takes. I know I've said that before. I don't necessarily find hot takes all that interesting. I prefer chewing on something. I prefer processing something, giving yourself a minute to develop a thought about it, to let something marinate before giving your hopefully informed, thoughtful take on something. And that's not across the board. I understand hot takes are real. There's nothing wrong with hot takes. That's just not my preferred method of communication. That's not my preferred way of thinking about something or talking about something. So, I this idea of being relevant isn't all that interesting to me. I don't really care to talk about breaking news or the latest thing that some celebrity did. Now, that doesn't mean I won't talk about it ever. I'm just saying, am I going to talk about it like a day of? Probably not. And I think I'm making peace with that. I think I'm making peace with the fact that, like, I don't know, I'm still going to be talking about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, I'm still going to be talking about that show 20 something years later. Although there is, as we all know, there is a reboot coming out. Although, again, I know I've said this before, so I know I sound like a broken record. Reboot is a misnomer. It's a continuation of the universe. Anyway, I am still going to talk about that show because I love it. So, that is still something that I am letting evolve. I'm still allowing myself to sort of like follow wherever the current takes me in terms of pop culture, how evergreen I want to be, how up to date I want to be, how relevant I want to be. I'm still figuring that out. This has all been one giant learning process in so many ways. One, I think, which is obvious, the technical way, the technology that I'm using, the mic, the mixing equipment, the editing software, knowing about like sound levels and having technical issues when I'm having a Zoom call and it's like not connecting to my editing software and just like figuring all of that out. Also figuring out the pacing. That was something that's been a huge learning process for me. Like, how often can I record? Do I want to record? Now, I want to stick to recording episodes weekly. I want to stick to that. But how do I want to structure recording the episodes? I have a full-time job, so this is a bit of a side project that I'm really enjoying, but it does take up quite a bit of time. How do I make time for that? How do I want to structure my schedule so that way it doesn't feel like I'm only working? Because your boy loves his downtime. I love absolutely melting into the couch. Just as much as I like to be out and about and travel, I really, really love melting into the couch and just watching a TV show or an episode that I've already seen 200 billion times. And I just need that downtime to balance out what can otherwise feel like a pretty hectic, full schedule. Oh, poor me, full schedule. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying I get tired and I need some downtime. So it's just been like learning a lot about that and like producing this. And also, is that am I producing this? Like, am I a producer technically? I have no idea, right? Like, so that's part of what I'm learning. Am I a producer? Am I a creator? Am I like what? This is so interesting to me. And I've been enjoying it along the way. The stakes could not be lower. And that is my favorite kind of sandbox to play in. Zero stakes or incredibly low stakes, because I give myself the grace of not being good at it, of messing up, of learning along the way, letting myself be a student while creating the show has been really wonderful. And it's been really helpful in terms of a mindset. I highly recommend, like, if there's something y'all want to start, let yourself be a student while you're starting. Let yourself be a novice at something. Give yourself the grace of learning. Let yourself be new at it and learn as much as you can along the way. The other part that I'm also still trying to figure out is, do I record and release episodes sort of like as I'm doing it, or do I record a bunch of episodes first, have something in the vault, have something in the bank, and then start releasing them slowly? That's what I did for season 1. I think I like that. I think I like having 3 or 4 episodes ready to go, and then I start releasing them as I'm continuing to record for that season. I don't know how long the next season will be. I think it'll be a little longer. I'm not sure. There's something about, I mean, this is so corny, right? But there is something about just like 10 episodes that I kind of like. I know this is the 11th episode. All right. I'm sorry. But there's something about maybe I'll stick to 11. Maybe that'll be the thing, right? Having 11 episodes a season, or maybe having them be longer. I'm not sure. I'm going to see how I feel along the way. 11 episodes was really good for me this time because there was traveling that happened recently, and I really needed to kind of like be mostly done with it before I went on the trips. So that was more of like a scheduling convenience thing. Like I just wasn't going to be home as much. So I felt comfortable doing 11 episodes and letting it just be that. And then taking a little bit of a break from releasing episodes, but using that time off, quote unquote time off, to still be recording new episodes. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I think like a 2 or 3 week break would be nice. You know what I mean? We'll see. Again, I don't know. All of this, I'm playing it by ear. This project was a lot more fun than I anticipated, to be honest with you. I really was bracing myself for this to feel only like work and like homework at that. And sometimes it does feel like homework, to be honest. Sometimes it does. But the overwhelming majority of the time doing this does genuinely feel like a lot of fun, especially when I'm talking to the guests, and especially when I'm re-listening to an episode because I'm editing it or I'm making notes or whatever, and I'm listening to something really lovely that the guest has said, or really poignant or smart that the guest has said. And and it kind of puts a smile on my face, or something really funny that the guest has said. I'm like cracking up all over again. That's just been so much fun. And I really, like I said before, I was really getting ready for this to just feel like another part-time job. And it hasn't. And it is work. It's effort at the very least. But it's been really fun. I had no idea. This may sound absolutely bonkers.com to some of you guys. I really did not realize how much I needed to have a creative endeavor, how much of like a creative itch that I actually had. I really didn't know. And again, it's like, well, you have a creative, everyone is creative. Everyone has like a creative side, and everyone has a creative side that needs to be satisfied. I really wasn't thinking about myself that way. And this has really scratched that itch. I have a newfound appreciation for the act of creating absolutely anything, of course, right? Creating something from nothing. Like once upon a time, these episodes that I recorded and released, they didn't exist. And now they do. It's just kind of nuts. And now they exist for other people to consume. And I'm thinking to myself, that's wild and cool and terrifying all at the same time. I joke a lot about the fact that, there's only like 2 listeners, one of them being my mom. And, there's a lot of truth in that, let's be honest. But I kind of love that, you know what I mean? Like, I like that this is small. I like that this feels very DIY. It is very DIY, duh. It feels very underdogish little engine that could vibes. And maybe that's giving myself in this podcast more credit than it deserves. But that's kind of how it feels. I think in a sea of podcasts, there's just so many out there. It's nice to know that I have this like little itty bitty corner of the podcasting world. There's this like little corner, And it's like ours. It's mine. It's the listeners. And, whether it's 2 of us or 10 of us or whatever, I don't know. That just feels like kind of cool, kind of neat to know that we have a little corner, a little space that's just for us. Again, the act of creating. I mean, if you're not actively engaged in creating something, absolutely anything, anything from like recording yourself singing to writing, to painting, to drawing, to podcasting, to pottery. I mean, like, honestly, y'all, if you're not engaged in some type of form of creativity, I'm telling you, get on that as quickly as possible. It really was something that's been missing in my life that I now recognize as being a fundamental part of who I am. Like, I need to be doing something creative. And even if I never record another podcast episode again, I know I need to be working on something. I need to be scratching rather that creative itch. I am still, as you can probably tell, finding my voice. What do I mean by that? Quite frankly, I'm not too sure. I'm still developing. I still put thought into developing my voice, meaning how do I structure these interviews? What do I have to say? How do I want to say it? What's the cadence? What's the tone? What kinds of questions do I want to ask? What kinds of conversations do I want to be having? That's sort of what I mean by finding my voice, is kind of like what is my point of view in all of this? What do I want to present to the world? I want it, there's something for sure. There's something interesting or kind of fun about it's just having a chit chat show, just like kind of talking like 2 friends chatting about stuff. And I like that. I really do. I also think it's important to have some sense, some kind of point of view or angle to a degree. It's not something I want to necessarily be married to. It is some kind of a structure that I'd like to develop. And I'm still developing that. This is supposed to be an analysis of pop culture, and I am still figuring out what that sounds like specifically. I think I'm on to something. I'm starting to have a sense. Something is starting to take shape in my mind, and I hope it translates into the episodes more and more and more as I get better and better, as this thing takes more and more shape in my mind. What is that angle? What is my point of view? What is the tone, right? Like, what's the message? And how do I want to structure all of this? What do I want to talk about? The more that I do this, the more that I feel like I'm getting closer to what that is. I'm still in the middle of figuring out what that is. So please bear with me. Also, that's kind of the point of this podcast, is that there's so much I don't know. And I know I talked about, I think in the first episode, I'm sure, right? That I talked about not really having a very clear vision of what I wanted this to be. And that the whole point of doing this was to figure that out. To go in, to sort of take a leap of faith without knowing where I was going to land. And I still find that kind of thrilling, right? I still find that process of like, I don't really know what shape this is going to take. I don't have a very clear vision of what I want this to be. I don't have a very clear vision of where I want this to go. I just know I want to figure that out. And the process of letting myself only kind of know what the very next step is versus knowing like 10 steps, 20 steps, 50 steps ahead has been really fun and exciting. I kind of want this to take whatever shape it's supposed to take. I don't want to know, right? I don't want to know what will be of this podcast a year from now, 5 years from now. I want to find out, right? So I guess that's what I'm doing here, right? I guess that's the point of this podcast. It's not about knowing, it's about finding out. It's not about knowing, it's about discovering, uncovering. And the process of that means I have to take a step forward in any direction and then decide what I want to do from there. So I'm still figuring out what my voice is. And that's what I mean, right? When I say finding my voice, what is the tone? What is my point of view? Another thought that I've had, and this hasn't come up yet, again, and that's one of the benefits of having a very small, not well-known podcast, is I do think about what clients will think when they listen to this, if they listen to this, if they stumble across this, like what will they think and how will they feel and how might that impact or influence our working relationship. Again, it hasn't happened yet. No one has said anything to me about the podcast, and that's okay, right? I don't expect them to. I am just sort of anticipating that perhaps happening one day and asking myself how I want to respond to that. But so far, none of my clients have brought it up, and it is most likely because none of them know that I'm doing this right now. I don't think anyone's heard it, and they're just not telling me. I don't think. I could be wrong, of course, but I don't think that's the case. I think this is, this is something that I just started. This is just getting started. And I think I read something somewhere that said something like it takes at least about a year for a brand new podcast that doesn't have a huge name attached to it to find their footing and to find their following, essentially. I am really excited for the day, if I keep doing this and if I keep putting in the time and the effort, and I do have a following that's more than 2 people, I'm really looking forward to the day where the fans of the podcast get their own name. You know what I mean? Like Mariah Carey fans are Lambs. Demi Lovato fans are Lovatics, right? Lovatics, something like that. Rihanna, they're the Navy, I believe. Beyonce, Beehive, of course, Bayhive. So I'm really looking forward to the folks that listen to this podcast for them to get their own name as well. That's, I think, when that'll be like a marker for me. I think that's when I'll know, like, oh my gosh, this is something. This is like turning into something legit or something. I don't know. I just think that'll be really cool. That's just, again, one kind of milestone that I'm looking forward to, that I hope happens again. And I know I have to put in the time and the effort, but that does sound pretty cool. It has been such a wild ride listening to my own voice. I cannot stress to y'all enough how challenging that's been. Lowercase c challenging, of course. Nothing could matter less. I don't like it. I don't like listening to my own voice. It has been helpful to know what I say a lot. And holy shit, do I say the word like a lot. Holy cannoli. I say the word like a lot. I say obviously a lot. I say I think a lot. What the hell is going on? Do I not know any other words? It is infuriating. So I apologize for anyone that has had to suffer through that. It has helped me, however, be more conscious of that, not just while recording the podcast, but also during sessions. It's made me more, I was going to say it's made me more paranoid, and that's probably too strong of a word. It has definitely made me more aware, more thoughtful, more conscientious of that. I cannot believe. Oh, and that's another one. So many filler words, which is silly because any silence that is recorded on the show, I can literally just edit out. So it is a habit that I am actively working against. I'm actively working on reconditioning myself to stop using those words nearly as much. Okay, I just did it. See? Just be comfortable with the silence, Omar. Focus. I'm doing this, like I said earlier, without a clear vision, without a clear target. I have dreams. I have fun fantasies, right, of doing a live recording of the podcast somewhere in front of a live audience. And I do think about that. And I think that would be really cool. It's not necessarily a goal. It is something that I would love to happen. And I'm doing this intentionally, working without a target, moving forward without a target. It's a very intentional choice that I'm making. I don't take enough big swings or risks. I don't take many leaps of faith. It's very scary for me. And more than that, it's just really uncomfortable for me. Usually the things that I do and engage in, I have a very clear sense, a very clear idea of what I'm doing and why and what the outcome or outcomes will probably be. When I went back to school to become a therapist, I had a very clear idea of what that was going to be like and what the outcome was going to be. And the actual experience didn't deviate all that much from that. And that's the way I like it. I like my days to be absolutely predictable. That's not entirely true, but it's mostly true. I just like to know what I'm getting myself into. And this has really been a practice in letting go of some control. No, letting go of control of the outcome. There's control that I get to partake in when putting the show together. Obviously, see, I just said obviously again. There's control in how long the episodes will be and all of that, what the title of the episodes would be, stuff like that. There's control there. But in the outcome, how will this be received? What happens once it's out there? It's been great practice for me to do that without knowing what's going to happen. This might be a podcast that lasts maybe just like one more season. Maybe that's it. And maybe only 10 people will ever listen to this. I have no idea, but I want to see, I just want to see what happens. And the only way I get to see what happens is if I sit tight, is if I follow through, if I stick with this and remain consistent. That's the only way I get to find out and be surprised. And I kind of want to be surprised. And I don't often want to be surprised. I don't like surprise parties or anything like that. I don't mind surprise gifts. That's a little bit different. The stakes are much lower, but I kind of want to be surprised and see where this goes and see, I don't know, what comes of this and what people I get to meet or talk to, what I get to learn about them, what I get to learn about myself, what I get to learn about the listeners, you. I have no idea, but I'm really looking forward to being surprised. So that's that. As you know, I am a therapist, but this podcast is no substitute for good old-fashioned therapy. So take what's useful, leave the rest, and please, 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 don't forget, therapy makes you hotter. See you in season 2. Bye.